Good afternoon. The last time I was talking about the connection of violence in the rewards and punishment system. Violence is a very central part of this rewards and punishment, not system, but syndrome. Okay, then the next part talks about community. Community is the most complex natural system. An example of community would be the chieftains. I was using that as the example, the chieftain, his neighbor's family. In community, the deepest need, love, is met. But over and above any one community are the overarching groups of communities. Except for villages and or other stages in between, this would be the chieftain's nation. That would be the overarching community. And over that, the nations of the world, so the whole world. Martin Luther King Jr. showed his understanding of this when he sought the common good of all the poor later on in his career, and not only the interests of his race. He also sought reconciliation between whites and blacks rather than to win a dispute over and against the needs of the whole community. Modern examples of the reward and punishment syndrome are that of multinational corporations and technology. Through tax laws, subsidies, trade agreements, etc., these are rewarded. The corporations are rewarded over and against other parts of more complex systems, such as a city or a county or a nation, even more than a nation, from which they get their sustenance. So the nations, like the people in the nations, they pay for the rewards which the corporations get by losing their jobs when the corporations want to leave for another country, or by taking low salaries. The people, the large community of people, which is much more complex than just a corporation, the larger system is being pays for the rewards which are given to the corporations. Globalization is a syndrome, and a rewards and punishment syndrome. The corporations are rewarded by many different things, and the rest of us pay. Okay. Now the next part is a different paper, but it's similar to the last one. Some of this is rather repetitive, but I'm trying to give it from different angles and different points of view so that we can really understand it in a more complete way, because it is not easy to explain just once. I have to explain it several times from different points of view. It is difficult to find words to express the dynamic phenomenon which I've been trying to describe. It's very dynamic. That's one of the difficulties. I've chosen the word system instead of element because of the dynamic movement within everything. Even so, a system soon sounds and seems as inert as any other word. It sounds dead. I have not used system every time, however, because confusion is caused immediately in regard to which system is being referred to. I've decided on rewards and punishment syndrome in the evolutionary movement under discussion. So this whole dynamic is evolutionary. There are changes that are taking place. I also generally use rewards and punishment syndrome to replace favoritism in regard to the movement involved. The American Heritage Dictionary gives, for the definition of violence, it gives this: physical force exerted for the purpose of violating, damaging, or abusing. And an example of a sentence: the essence of war is violence. Macaulay said that. And that was the first definition in that dictionary. And that's the definition that I use for the word violence. This is the meaning I want to convey. For this reason, I try to use the word violence rather than violent, which has a different meaning. And I'm only referring to action by human agents, not activity by other natural agents when I use violence. For example, I'm not referring to a tiger going and attacking another animal. I'm just talking about a human being who might, if he would attack another human being, that's the type of thing I'm talking about, not animals. I feel it's natural for animals to act that way, but we are called to something, to a different evolutionary stage we are in. Natural evolution has been invaded by a geometrically expanding syndrome which has caused a destruction of ecological and social systems worldwide. This is the rewards and punishment syndrome. We may wonder at the cause of so much degeneration in the Earth's social and ecological systems. We see starvation, disease, wars, loss in forests and species, crime, damage to the ozone layer, droughts, floods, etc., as never before. The thesis of this paper is that these have developed not by a lack of goodwill, but by addiction in anyone, including leaders. A leader may start an addiction going because of his own addiction. He may start a syndrome going, but we cooperate when we don't resist. So by doing our part, we are part of that addiction. We have our own addiction in the process. Although an elusive and mysterious subject, this, which I'm talking about, the rewards and punishment syndrome, I will try to describe the modus operandum and patterns taking place in the phenomena involved. By selection, I am referring to the conditions which cause certain organisms to survive as opposed to others. By artificial selection, I mean violence done to natural evolution by human interference or meddling through rewards and punishments. This paper is not about stationary events or times, but about groups of events as causes, and about syndromes which evolve artificially in patterns which permeate large numbers and varieties of events through history. So it's groups of systems and groups of syndromes. It's not just one syndrome which you could really follow exactly where it goes. This is one will start another one, and another one will be going over here, another one over here, and you can't really describe it the same way you could describe something much more static. This thing is moving and evolving. So that's it. Please pardon if I don't quite get it right at times, because I am trying though, because it is so disconcerting in its movement and its multiplication. It keeps growing and growing, and also moving and changing. A system is a cycle of activity by other less complex parts within it which work together in an orderly pattern. A system is always found with other systems within another more complex system. Under natural selection, systems work together, exchanging resources for survival, while protecting the survival of the most complex system of which they form a part. An example of a system is a nation of people. The following is a description of what I call artificial selection. Another thing you can think of for artificial selection is very often rewards or punishments. That's another way of saying it. But if you look at it through an evolving sense, you can call it artificial selection. Artificial selection is manipulation in which systems cooperate with the rewarding by meeting the needs of certain lesser systems within them against the common good of the whole. For example, we can artificially select certain people and things with rewards and punishments. Artificial selection meets the needs of a certain part of a naturally selected system over and against other parts' needs, which in turn affects negatively the whole system. For example, a king can artificially select townspeople over peasants by having landowners give them extra food, with peasants, as a result, not getting enough. And the whole nation gets hurt because pretty soon you got enemies between the townspeople and the country peasants. And you don't want that in a country. It's something like the United States today, with all the enemies that we all have. Not all of us, but you walk down the street, all of a sudden somebody hates you. They never even saw you before. They don't even know you. But because you're from a certain group, which has been played against another group, maybe on purpose, by this artificial syndrome, pretty soon you have an enemy, an automatic enemy that you never even thought of as an enemy before you look at them. And they start attacking you or whatever they might do. Hopefully it doesn't come to that. But that's a dysfunctional country when you have that. So for the common good of the overarching systems, it's better not to play these games. But this is what's being played all the time. Okay, I will continue talking the next time about this subject. Thank you.